Have you ever stayed at a state park campground? You just might want to consider these campgrounds after we share with you the differences between state park campgrounds and private campgrounds. So stay tuned. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Charity.
And I'm Ben.
And in 2018, Ben left his full-time job and we took this show on the road, working remotely and traveling the United States with our two kids. Today, we're gonna talk about the differences between private or commercial campgrounds and campgrounds that you find in state parks or national parks. We've stayed at both and we've noticed what some of the differences are, and there's some pros and there's some cons. So we're gonna go over those with you today so that as you are planning your travels, you have a good idea of where you might want to stay, whether in a state park, if there's one in the area, or in more of a private RV park.
The number one reason is that state parks are typically cheaper.
They are. And part of the reason for that is because they're usually receiving some sort of subsidy. So whether that is from the state that they're located in the form of tax dollars, or whether it's from the daily use fees that they're collecting for people that come and use the state park for recreation, the costs for staying in a state park are usually lower than private campgrounds just because they have other subsidies to be able to offset the costs of the operation.
Number two is the amenities. There's typically not as many amenities at a state park than a regular campground.
That's true. And so a lot of state parks, where they do have like a bathhouse or a shower house, and a lot of state parks do at least have laundry facilities, you don't find some of the other amenities that you find in a private campground. Things like a swimming pool, or maybe like a playground area for the kids, or mini golf, or some of the things that you find in a private RV park. The other difference between state parks and private RV parks is with the facilities that they do have. They're not always in the best repair. So while all the state parks that we've stayed in have had at least clean bathrooms and clean showers, they're not always the most updated or aesthetically pleasing like you would find in some of the private or more commercial RV parks. So if you choose to stay in a state park, just remember that yes, it's going to be cheaper on average, but you also are maybe not going to have the nicest amenities like you would have if you stay at more of like a private RV park or a commercial RV park.
Another reason is that most RV parks will have the option for full hookups, but not all state parks will have that option. A lot of state parks will just have electric only.
Or electric and water without maybe the sewer. And while most of them will have a dump station so that you can at least dump your tanks and things like that, you wouldn't have the full hookups like that you would find in pretty much every single private RV park's gonna have those full hookups. So that's something to be aware of and to ask those questions and make sure that you're looking really well when you go to book that reservation. As far as if you're staying in a state park, does the site that you're booking have full hookups? Is it electric? Is it electric and water? And just to be aware of what sort of hookups that you have when you're going to stay there.
The other difference is that state parks are typically like a nature park atmosphere.
Exactly. And a lot of the private RV parks are set up as an RV park versus when you stay in a state park, you typically have more of just kind of that nature or woodsy type of feel. When we stayed at Maher State Park, which we'll put a link in the description below to that state park in the Mobile, Alabama area, it was just a beautiful state park where it was on a very large lake, and we had lots of trees, and we set up the hammock for the kids and they could just relax in the hammock amongst the trees. And it was just a beautiful nature type of area. Versus when you're staying in a private RV park, you don't always have that option. You don't have trees that you can just, rig up your hammock to, or things of that nature. So staying in a state park is definitely the way to go if you're looking for more of kind of that camping feeling with having the glamping aspect.
Without boondocking.
Or without boondocking. So, and that's another thing with state parks, is that state parks also can be a really good alternative to people that maybe want to boondock, but just don't feel quite confident in doing so or don't feel safe in doing so. So utilizing a state park is a great option to be able to still feel like that you're out and you're enjoying nature, but you've got your amenities and you've got usually a safety aspect. Most state parks are patrolled by rangers that are either employed by state law enforcement or the Department of Wildlife in that particular area, but there is essentially a security type presence in most state parks with the rangers that patrol the areas.
The next thing is the reservation process. Sometimes state parks actually are first come, first serve, so you can't really plan ahead to book a reservation at a state park.
Right. And some of them you can book reservations for, and a lot of those get booked up way in advance. When we were planning to visit the Destin, Florida area, there is a great state park that's in the Destin area. And I thought I was pretty on the ball making reservations and making plans well in advance when we were planning our trip to Destin.
She's a planner.
I'm a chronic planner. However, making reservations 6 months in advance, which is where I started the booking process, that state park was already filled up. And what I was informed of is that particular state park usually books up 9 to 10 months in advance, just because it's a very popular area. So if you're wanting to utilize a state park and the area that you're planning to visit is a little bit more of a popular destination, you want to plan on making those reservations well in advance. Now, we were able to make reservations for a private RV park in the Destin area, which was a gorgeous park. It was not too far away from the beach, and we were able to do that in that 6-month window. However, we also paid a little bit more to stay at that particular private park than we would have if we had been able to utilize the state park. So something to consider as you're looking at your travel plans and making reservations is that if you want to utilize state parks, make sure that you do it well in advance, or also have some flexibility, as some state parks are on a first come, first served basis. So out of the state parks that we've stayed at, what do you think has been your favorite state park?
I would say my favorite is Myrtle Beach State Park. Just the fact that you feel like you're in the woods and it's surrounded by trees and the cicadas.
I would have to agree that Myrtle Beach State Park was probably one of my favorites too. And one of the things that I like about state parks in general as well, with just the kids, is we try to make every experience that we have on the road as educational as possible. And we are really firm believers in kind of the road school mentality of learning as we're doing. And so a lot of state parks will have ranger-led nature programs that teach the kids about the ecology that is going on in that state park, whether it's marine life or biological material or plant life or things of that kind of nature. No pun intended, things of that nature. But it's great experience for the kids when you stay in a state park and you have those ranger-led type programs. So thank you so much for watching this video on the differences between state parks and private RV parks. The highest compliment that you can give us is to share this content with others. So we invite you to use the share button, send a link to a friend, or post it on your social media. Give us a thumbs up, as well as hit that subscribe button. And when you hit the subscribe button, make sure that you ring the little bell icon, which is going to give you notifications the next time that we post a new video.